don't really know him very well.
That's also fair. That's also fair. We got to run to a break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back here in just a minute, the legendary Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us, and we talk Carolina Panther football. And we'll also see if Rashad wants to be rich like Nick Saban. Yes, he does. We all do. The Rob Rouse Show rolls on next. It is the Fan Upstate.
Smith and James.
All right, guys, live read. We're setting up Rashad, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Rashad Beard, what's up, big dog?
What's going on, guys?
What you doing, man?
Good.
You trying to get rich, or are you one of these money can't buy happipiness weirdos?
Nah, man, money can definitely buy happiness.
That's what's
for
up.
Sure.
That's what's up.
How do you guys know that? Because I don't.
Because I'm poor and unhappy.
No, because I've never had money to know. So
more money, more problems, though, too. I mean, it's a gift and a curse, I guess.
I'll tell you what. I will take those problems.
Take the problem.
You know what I mean? I still got problems. Now, money can fix a lot of the problems I got. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Rashad, do you know who R-Truth is?
Absolutely.
We're going to be interviewing him in a couple hours.
Up?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
R-Truth is great, man. He's on a nice little run right now.
The show today, running it tomorrow.
Yeah, he's on a nice little run too, man.
He's a Charlotte boy too.
He is a Charlotte guy, yeah.
Is there any question that you would like us to ask R-Truth?
I mean, I think I've listened to a lot of interviews from him. I think, one of the biggest ones would be, how does he feel about not, getting a true title run? You know what I mean? Like he's been around for a long time, but I don't know.
Yeah, because he was a champion elsewhere.
So, yeah. But I think that question has been asked before. I've listened to him answer that before. So anything new, not necessarily.
We're just going to ask him a bunch of little Jimmy questions.
Yeah.
Hello, Jimmy's doing.
R-Truth is great, man. He's great. Always reinventing himself.
Yep. And as someone close to his age, man, I wish I looked that good.
Yeah, he's in great shape. His hairline's starting to go, but he's in great shape.
I'm going to tell you what. If I can be jacked like that dude at 52, you
take
can
the
have
hair,
it, bro. You can have it. All right, it is Thursday. You know what that means? Time to talk a little Carolina Panther football with one half of the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation at PC. More importantly, go find them on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed. There is not a better spot for Panther discussion than the Panther Nation podcast. Rashad Beard joins us on the show. What's up, big dog?
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here. Another week of the off season.
Yeah, man. It is quiet, kinda. Yeah, except for we started to see some smoke coming up out of Charlotte, North Carolina earlier this week that said Carolina, and I don't know what these reports are. I don't know what your read is. I read a couple of places. Carolina made an offer to Brian Burns. That offer was somewhere between 25 and 27 mil. 27 was the number he asked for last offseason, but that he wants 30 mil a year starting this year. Labeled a down season by a lot of folks. Rashad, you and I have talked about this before. I think the defense was asked to do like a lot this year, so I'm not shocked by the underwhelming performance of the defense. He wants 30. Carolina offering between 25 and 27. And that, of course, if they can't come to the agreement, means Burns catching the tag, ?
Yeah, this is a very, very interesting conundrum the Carolina Panthers find themselves in, and one we kind of saw coming, especially last year when Brian Burns had a pseudo holdout, didn't quite hold out, ended up playing, put his body on the line, played on the fifth-year option, and he wanted his money, and the Carolina Panthers did not give him the money. And, he took one for the team. I'm going to play, was worried about injuries. But that's what the report is. So he didn't quite give it his best shot. Teams, a lot of fans were expecting the double-digit 15 sack year, and it just did not happen for whatever reason, whether it's the schemes, team scheming against him, or he's, trying to protect himself from injury, whatever the case may be. That didn't quite pan out. And so now the Panthers are, hey, you want 30 mil, but didn't give us $30 million production. No, we can't do that. And so I definitely see both sides of this. I can see the Brian Burns part of it where he's saying, hey man, listen, I've been doing it here consistently. I've played under like 5-6 different coaches. And, I've been here since Rivera. I've been around for a long, long time. You guys kind of owe me some back pay a little bit. I've been dealing with a lot. And the Panthers are like, look, I got a new regime. We can't fit you in here. We cannot give you the money that you're asking for and build around Bryce Young. We can't do that given the current cap status. And so I see both sides of this. I do eventually think, it's going to lead to a franchise tag situation. And I don't expect Brian Burns to play under said franchise tag. I think there's a long-term holdout here, and this is about to be nasty. This is going to be a nasty situation.
Which you kind of hate because as far as face of the franchise goes, I mean, obviously Bryce Young is positioned to be that guy, but with the trade of Christian McCaffrey, Brian Burns kind of stepped into that role a little bit. So to have this squabble, which again, I do think is absolutely understandable, but to have this squabble, especially if it's over $3 million a year, whether it's, a 5-year contract more or less, dude, it's just, I don't know how else to put this. I know it's unprofessional. It's kind of a bummer, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. I mean, yeah, and shout out to Robert Flores in the chat. He says this feels like Julius Peppers all over again. I completely agree. For those that, that were around back then, this is a very similar situation to Peppers. Peppers wanted to get paid. We said we're not. We drew the line in the sand, didn't do it. He ended up going to Chicago, et cetera, came back. But yeah, I mean, listen, I see both sides of this, man. Again, I don't know what the Panthers are going to do, but I can tell you this. It is frustrating to see, once again, from a fan standpoint, our guys continue to go off into the sunset. And I have to turn hater mode on once again, because now he has left Carolina. We did it with CMC. We did it with Cam Newton. We did it. I mean, there's a multitude of guys where we cannot seem to keep our good players in Carolina. And then when we let them go or trade for them, we cannot execute with said draft picks. Like, I can understand if we let the guy walk and then you replace him with an excellent player. Like that is how it's supposed to work. But when you let a guy walk like Brian Burns and then have a guy in the waiting in the wings like DJ Johnson, with all due respect, that's not good. You can't operate a team like that. And that's why we continue to end up picking in the top 10 and number 1 overall, is because we cannot replace our talent. We're not drafting very well. So it's just not a good situation for the Carolina Panthers to find themselves in, especially with the lack of draft capital. Now, maybe they try to recruit some of that in a tag and trade, but I don't know, man. It's just a messed up situation.
What is if they do decide to go tag and trade, because I've seen that thrown around a lot more frequently, especially now that you're going into a draft where, yeah, you're sitting on pick 33, but not a ton of that extra playroom available. Is Brian Burns, is that a guy you're comfortable with doing if it picks you up a couple of draft picks elsewhere? And B, how much does that impact your defense, assuming you can't find a replacement for Brian Burns? Do you think the next guy to step up's on the roster already, or does that kind of obligate you to use those picks to find his replacement?
Right. That's the biggest thing. There's nothing behind Burns. Like, let's be honest here. You got DJ Johnson. YGM is on a contract year, so he's a free agent. Marquise Haynes, also a free agent. You got Frankie Louvu, who's also a hybrid pass rusher, a free agent, but we're probably looking to get him back. And so, yeah, there's nothing behind Brian Burns, right? And so if you happen to pick up some picks for Brian Burns, hopefully it's a couple first rounders, which we turned down, albeit from, the LA Rams a year ago, allegedly. And so, like, it's just really, it's really messed up, man. It's really messed up. And you're going to create a huge gap on that defense by letting him leave, like, if that happens. And so, again, if you get said picks, you've got to end up finding somebody that's going to produce. And one thing I will give credit to Evero is that he's done a great job. If you go back and look at Denver, his Denver years, he did an excellent job without a premier pass rusher. That defense was still top 10 without a premier pass rusher. And so maybe they're going to put the onus on Evero to get the best out of whoever he's playing with. I think that's a bit unfair to kind of handicap the guy, but maybe again, I've said this on my show, is that this whole year is about supporting Bryce Young, right? And yes, a part of that is getting him a good defense, right? We don't want a scenario where our defense is just, Swiss cheese, and then, you got to put all the pressure on Bryce Young to score points. But I do believe a lot of the resources, a lot of the money that we want and have in the offseason is going to go towards getting a receiver, or go towards fixing the interior offensive line. So it's a really tough scenario, man. It's tough. It is tough. I see both sides of this, man.
So we had this discussion earlier this week where we have been talking about the offensive line versus wide receivers, looking at free agents. I went and looked at the free agent wide receiver list, dude. It's not real good. You got T. Higgins on it. I think that guy's getting franchise tag. In fact, I think of the top 6 guys that are wide receivers, probably 4 of them are getting tagged before this whole thing's over. I've been bouncing back and forth about, all right, this is a real deep wide receiver class in the draft this year. A lot of good names, a lot of guys that any other year would probably be top 20 picks that might be available at 33 because of how many there are, which makes me want to go, and almost feels like you're kind of obligated to focus your free agency on that offensive line and look wide receiver in the draft to try to find that young guy that you can kind of groom and mold with Bryce Young. What's your thoughts on that, looking at the free agent list and who might be a fit and who might not be?
Yeah, it's a great question. We did that breakdown just this past Tuesday of the offensive, of the wide receivers. And so the wide receiver class, like you said, a lot of those guys are definitely going to get franchise tagged. I believe 2 of them have already been franchise tagged, in T. Higgins, and I forgot who else got franchise tagged. Pittman from Indianapolis also got franchise tagged. So that leaves guys like potentially a Mike Evans. So you look at what the franchise tag is for Brian Burns. If we're going to franchise tag him, that's $24 million. We could shift that $24 million, that same $24 million per year, and grab a Mike Evans. And so I don't know what's going to happen with Mike Evans. Maybe he gets tagged. Maybe they figure something else out with him. I don't know. I don't know what the Bucs are going to do with him. Also, you got guys like Calvin Ridley, who I think is a very good option, a very solid route runner. So I think we've got to free up some cap. We've got some work to do from a cap perspective to get enough space to make some maneuvers. So it's going to be interesting to see what Brant Tillis does there from a cap perspective, to see what we're going to do in free agency. I think this draft class is deep in interior offensive line and wide receiver. I think you can find somebody in the second round. The problem is that we don't have a lot of draft capital, right? So maybe we're talking about 33. Maybe you take that 33, trade back a couple of picks, and acquire some more day 2 picks to get more cracks at getting a guy. It's really like, this is one of the tougher off seasons because there's so many needs, not a lot of cap resources, not a lot of draft resources, but you got to get somebody to help out Bryce. And I do believe going the veteran route for interior offensive linemen should be the way to go, because you don't want to risk Bryce development on, trying to train up a guy and develop an interior offensive lineman when, at the same time risking. We've seen that happen. We've done that already. But at the same time, you got to get into talent, some wide receiver talent as well. So a lot of needs. We're a 2-win team, not very good. So we got a lot of gaps to fill, a lot of holes.
That was the thought that I went. I think you got to go free agency on the offensive line, and I think you just got to roll the dice on like a couple of wide receivers in the draft and hope you stumble into a Marcus Colston situation where you get that guy who kind of quiet storm breaks out. That being said, listen, everything you just said, agree with, spot on accurate. A lot of questions, not a lot of answers. What's that say, if anything? And I know this is almost kind of a put the ball on the tee for you moment, but hey, welcome to radio. That's what we do. What's that say about the management process over the past couple of years of Carolina, that you've got yourself in this position where you have a billion questions and 0 answers? And more importantly, what kind of level of trust in Dan Morgan do you have to fix it?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. And this is exactly what happens when you have the constant turnover in the front office and at head coach. All these head coaches have different visions for the team. They have different personnel that's going to execute their schemes. And so this constant change, you're getting this hodgepodge of guys that don't mesh together. And so now you got Dan Morgan, who said, hey, he's been around, right? He's seen some of this, and maybe he can kind of, say, all right, this is where I would have zigged when we zagged. And so like, hopefully he can figure it out. And he does have some skin in the game and been around, knows the personnel. Hopefully he can talk to Canellis and say, hey, this is what we got. And this is how maybe we can get the best of it. But it's going to take some years. It's going to take some time for us to get this thing right from a personnel standpoint. So fan base, again, we've got to, I know we've been saying this forever, and I don't know how much patience there is in the world, but you got to be patient with the guys and let them execute their vision, because it's not going to happen overnight. Hopefully we can, maybe there's a match that gets sparked and we hit, maybe 7-8 wins off the rip, but I don't expect that. And it's going to take some time. It's really going to take some time because, again, the constant turnover at head coach, the constant turnover at GM has just put us in a complete mess. Different contract mindsets. You've got Scott Fitter, who started experimenting with the Saint way of building contracts and adding on voided years. That kicks the can down the road, affects future cap. So we've got to get out of that too. Like there's just a lot. There's layers to this, and I know a lot of people just want us to fix it immediately and just pay everybody, right? But that's just unfortunately not possible. I mean, I love Brian Burns. I got the Florida State helmet. I've been following Brian Burns for a long time. But at the end of the day, we've got to do what's best for the franchise. And I'm not saying signing Brian Burns isn't part of that, because maybe we can find a way, because good teams find a way to do it. Good teams find a way to keep their guys, and maybe we can find a way to do it. I love Brian Burns, but I don't know what's going to happen, man. We just got to exercise some patience and let's see the vision. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, there's not much more that stings as a fan than when you have to shift looking at a guy that has meant a lot to your franchise and means a lot to you as a fan, but you have to start viewing him in terms of what he's worth in terms of capital as opposed to what he means on the field, especially sentimentally, right? Like when you got to look at Brian Burns and view him as draft picks and veteran players as opposed to this is what this guy has meant to this program, seeing the Spider-Man dance and all that stuff. It kind of stings a little bit, but I don't think Carolina has a choice. And I think on top of that, Rashad, I said this last week on the show, it got a little pushback, so I'll throw it at you and get your thought. Anybody who thinks that this is like a one-season project is going to be sorely disappointed. And that's not to say Carolina can't or won't win more games next year. That's not to say Carolina can't or won't double, hell, triple their win total next year. But if you think this team, even in a bad division, is going to bounce back from the hole it's in right now and be a team that is in any way overall competitive next year, dude, you got to slow the roll. This is a 2, probably 3-year rebuild. And I know it stings, but you don't have any other options, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's our reality, man. A lot of people are going to have those expectations. Again, it comes with the territory, and like, I think one of my viewers had a great comment a while back, and they were saying that, hey, Carolina Panthers fans have a problem with separating regimes, right? This is all compounded, right? And it's unfair to Canales, it's unfair to whoever comes here to coach, is that these expectations and the frustration that we've been dealing with for the past 6 years comes right on your shoulders. And that comes with the territory, right? But we've been frustrated for years. Like, this is not just a last year thing. This is not just a 1-year thing with Bryce. This is with Frank Reich. Goes all the way back to at the end of Rivera with Matt Rule. All the stuff, these things have compounded, right? And so the frustration has led up to this. And so you get these expectations. All right, you got to come fix this immediately. And that's just unfair. It's unfair to Canales. And I, obviously, as one that follows the game, I'm not, again, I don't know the X's and O's like that. I'm not a super, again, I got an associates over here. I'm working with associates, not a bachelor's, not a doctorate. So I know what I'm looking at, and I have to take my time and say, all right, I understand how this works. And I understand the nuance to the business side of it and how it's going to take some time to get this thing going. And just a regular fan, that is very frustrating because you don't understand the layers that comes with this. It's going to take some time, and that's just what it is. It's just the reality of the situation, and it's unfortunate, and it's frustrating. But I do believe the NFL is designed to be cyclical, right? We've been at the top before, okay? We were just at the top in 2015. We will get back. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, and we just got to wait our turn. That's really what it boils down to. We're gonna come back. We'll be back.
10-second answer. Brian Burns, $27 million a year, worth it? Yes or no?
Yeah, I say yes, man. I say yes.
Okay. We will break that down further next week because we might know if he's catching the tag or not next time we talk. Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, get them on YouTube at Panther Nation Podcast. Get searched, get subscribed. Is your cell phone working this morning?
It is.
Okay. I'm caught up in the apocalypse over here. Nobody saw. All right.
Yeah, mine's working too.
Ugh.
It's just another oddball.
World's out to get me, man. I don't have to tell you. Rashad, we'll talk to you next week, big dog. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
You know it. Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. Again, follow them on Twitter and YouTube. And we're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Rashad, get up out of here quick. My man said, I got stuff to do.
So the only reason why I was pointing that out to you is I didn't want you to freak out when you looked over and saw a guy in the window. It took my dude 10 minutes to get the ladder right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's going to go through the window. He's just going to mess up. He's going to go right through the window.
Those of y'all over here from the PNP, if y'all want to follow us over on the other page, you are welcome to at the Rob Brown Show on YouTube. Search and subscribe to that.